want to call the East Greenbush Central School District Board of Education meeting to order. Welcome to Red Mill. We're pleased to be here this evening. Board members present this evening, everyone except for Michelle Skomersky will not be here. Emily and Kathleen, we expect to be a little bit late. So with that, if you could please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Moving on to the next item on our agenda, the Student Council is not here this evening, right? Got that message. So I will turn it over to Mr. Simons and our principal, Ms. Squilacci. She is here. Hey, Helen.
Thank you, Mr. Buono. I really want to welcome all of you here this evening and those members of the community who are participating through the broadcast, through the live stream. This is a very special traditional night in the East Greenbush Central School District. Our district is very fortunate and blessed to have so many people, parents and community members who volunteer of their time to help our schools provide very positive atmosphere, extra programs and support for all of our students. So this evening, Mrs. Squilacci is going to introduce each of our administrators who are here to honor very special guests who extend themselves beyond their own roles as parents and as community members and do so much for each of our schools. On behalf of the district, we are so grateful for what you do. Our district would not be the strong, positive district that it is without the volunteers that we honor tonight and the many volunteers that we honor and we appreciate year-round. Mrs. Squilacci.
Thank you, Mr. Simons. I am so appreciative to be the host for this special night. It's always one of my favorite board meetings of the year because I get to see some old friends and I get to recognize some wonderful people that have done so much for our school. I think everyone knows here, anyone who's had a child or who has been in a school themselves and remembers their own childhood years, volunteers are really the heart of our schools. Volunteers are the ones who come up with these grand ideas that are beyond the curriculum and beyond the classroom and that make school memorable and fun for our students. And that's what it's really all about, because students, that's what they're going to remember. When you ask them at the end of the year what was their favorite thing, it tends to be something that a volunteer was involved in. So I'm really appreciative of all the volunteers, and it's great to see all of you out here with your families. Tonight, our 7 school buildings and our athletic department will recognize a volunteer from each of those buildings and departments. We have a token of our appreciation for all of our volunteers, a little gift to send off with you, and also a certificate. And I get the great honor of going first. So I would like to talk a little bit about the person that Red Mill selected for our Volunteer of the Year. And that person is Jeanette Ike. Jeanette, you want to come up here? Come on, don't be shy. All right. So Jeanette is here with her lovely daughter, Taylor, who's a 5th grader at Red Mill School, and her husband, John. And I just said to John, I appreciate you sharing Jeanette with us for all the years that she's been helping us here at Red Mill School. Jeanette is our vice president on our PTO. And as you know, VPs are behind the scenes doing so much of the lion's share of the work. And she does so much at Red Mill School. The first thing I'm going to hugely miss about Jeanette is the bulletin board that she does every month without failure, clockwork. She calls me up and she says, Helen, I'm going to come in on Thursday to do the month of March bulletin board. Well, you know, first impressions are everything, and that beautiful, clever, creative board that's decorated so well, that welcomes students and families into our building and our guests and visitors. I always ask her, where did you come up with that idea? There's really neat ideas that she brings to our school. So thank you for that. Jeanette has been heavily involved in our PTO for many, many years. She's had her hands in so many different of our initiatives. In the past, she's run our whole Scholastic Book Fair, which is a great fundraiser for our school, and also great at getting books in students' hands. Our back to school picnic, you'll always see her prepping behind the scenes and running around like a crazy woman, getting everything done. She's just a team player. She runs our whole Life Touch school picture program, and that's quite the feat, organizing almost 500 students to get their fall and spring pictures taken every year. Our snow cone sales, she's a regular at, getting her hands sticky and stained for the next week. And she's huge in doing our spring fundraiser every year. For the last several years, it's been an awesome Krause's Candy fundraiser. And Jeanette is just amazing. I think the one thing that I find most amazing about her is while doing all this, juggling everything, organizing everything, she never looks stressed out. She's kind of like, every time I see her, I'm like, keep calm and carry on. She's got that like mantra to her. So I admire that about her, and I appreciate everything you've done for Red Mill School. Thank you, Jeanette. Okay, next up we have Belltop, Mr. Martin Mahar, principal at Belltop School.
Thank you, Mrs. Squillace. I wrote down a brief bio for Allison Gato so I wouldn't forget all the amazing things she does. Allison, are you here? Come on up, Allison, please. You can stand up right next to me, but I have to read. Allison, on behalf of the Belltop School community, I'd like to thank you for your dedication and commitment to not only the students, but the staff and the community at Belltop. Allison began her volunteer support soon after her twins, Andrew and Rebecca, they here tonight, cheering you on. Hello there. Joined the Belltop community as students. Allison has been a PTO member for many years, a room parent, and this year is our current PTO president. Her leadership on the PTO has been a huge benefit to the Belltop students and staff. Allison and the PTO volunteers can be credited with several new initiatives at Belltop, including the Belltop Fun Run, which raised last year over $20,000 for our students and staff. Among that, the Belltop Ice Cream Social, the annual book fair, the Belltop Yearbook and Picture Day, Trunk or Treat, Family Reading Night, Brooks Barbecue, supporting our Belltop Book Club by purchasing a brand new book for every student and teacher and staff member in our school. And the list goes on and on. We could be here for quite a while, but that sums up most of it. But in addition, Allison also ran an Odyssey of the Mind team, which included Belltop students. She is highly active in organizing and running a troop of Girl Scouts and assists her husband as a Greenbush soccer coach. And I see him here tonight rooting you on. Thanks for coming. Allison, where do you find the time to do all these things, honestly? Please tell me your secret. I know you don't sleep much, do you? Okay. Well, in summary, it has been both rewarding and a pleasure to have been a partner together with you, Allison, to do some amazing things at Belltop. Thank you.
Nice. There you go. I like it.
It's all
See ya.
legal. All right, thank you and enjoy.
Okay, next up we have Mr. Jack Alvey, principal of Donald P. Sutherland School.
Thank you, Mrs. Squillace. At this time, I'd like to invite up Antoinette Perry. Antoinette is being recognized tonight. This is actually the second time I've had the opportunity to recognize Antoinette. Antoinette has provided the service of her therapy dogs to the Donald P. Sutherland School. Our first go around was with our good friend Maggie. And actually, I don't know, Naeem, did you have the opportunity to read to Maggie as a first grader? Do you remember? You do. All right, there we go. So there's validation right there. And at this time, we want to recognize Antoinette and her therapy dog, Truman. Truman worked with our first graders pre-pandemic and then right after the pandemic as well. Unfortunately, Truman, during the February break, passed away. And so this year's first graders will not have the opportunity to work with Truman, but he has been such a valuable asset to our kids and our school community. And I know how much you loved your dogs and Truman. And I miss when Truman comes into the office and barks at me and, knows, I shouldn't be in his territory. But we greatly appreciate all that you've done over the years, and having Truman as a resource to our first graders. They'll always remember that opportunity to read to Truman in first grade. Thank you so much for all that you've done to contribute to our school community. Thank you, Antoinette.
Okay, next we have Mr. Dan Garab, Green Meadow Principal.
Thank you, Mrs. Squillace. This is always a nice evening, and it's extra special having it at Red Mill, where I got to spend 20 years here. They let me out of the basement once in a while. I would like to recognize the dynamic duo from Green Meadow, Kate Sebriamo and Michelle Beaver. Come on up. These two fine volunteers do so much to support our backpack program at Green Meadow. And they're really almost secretive about it. They come into the school, they do sign in, they follow all the rules, but then you don't even know they're there. And I'm going to start with one of your biggest accomplishments first. And it's good that Coach Diedrich is here, because somehow we were able to convince Coach Diedrich to give up a good chunk of his athletic storage area at Green Meadow for all of our backpack items. And he's happy. So I'm glad Coach Diedrich is here. He didn't even give us a hard time. But they come in weekly. They organize all the food. They work with the regional food bank. They pack the backpacks. They've secured funding for us. They work closely with our social worker, Maria Fontaine, who really coordinates the overall program. And they really do it in a pretty secretive way. So nobody really stands out. Nobody knows these backpacks are going home. You're pretty discreet, and that's appreciated. But, they don't come looking for any pats on the back, but you're each going to get one. And it's just so appreciated what you do for, the neediest families at Green Meadow. So on behalf of the whole Green Meadow Elementary School, thank you for your service. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay, next we have Mr. Wayne Grignon. He is our principal at Janae.
Thank you, Mrs. Squillace. Janae Elementary School is extremely pleased to announce that this year's volunteer recognition is going to be Mrs. Jennifer Kerr. Mrs. Crewell. Oh, Mrs. Kerr is one of our teachers. Begins the letter C. It's been a long day. I apologize, everybody. I'm sorry. Okay. And if anyone knows me, I wrote everything out because if I don't write it out, you might as well just sit back and get ready for a long evening. So I've had the privilege of knowing Mrs. Crewell now for 4 years since I joined the Janae team in 2019. Jen began her volunteer support when she and her family moved to the area several years ago from Seattle, Washington. She's a devoted mother of 4 children, Audrey, Ethan, Hudson, and soon to be Scarlett, entering Janae next year as kindergarten. And over the past 4 years, she has been the driving force within the Janae PTO, working closely with me on many longstanding traditions within the Janae community, but also she strived to incorporate many new ideas for the betterment of our school. Jen is at every school function from movie nights, chair of the Janae Yearbook Committee, kindergarten orientation, meet and greet, spring fling, trunk or treat, which is one of our new initiatives that I would say, hesitant about because I didn't know what it was going to entail. And we had our second one this past year and it was widely successful. So much so that actually some other schools decided to join our trunk or treat that same evening, which was wonderful to see. Explore and Grow, the 5th grade picnic, Janae's school-wide picnic with our field day, which was a huge change for us as well, which was a huge success. School pictures, family reading night, fun Fridays, and of course the ice cream socials. And the list could go on and on. When we started to return to a state of normalcy after COVID, Jen was instrumental in providing those opportunities to our students that were taken away during the pandemic, which was a huge driving factor for our school. I also just want to recognize the rest of our board that's here to support Jen as well, because it was really a team effort, but Jen was the driving force to get everybody on board to make these initiatives take place. You can see Jen volunteering in the classrooms, testing out some of the new crazy ideas like our glow party in some of the classrooms to see how it would stand with our students who give us the best indication of how things would go. And I just want to put out there that if anyone needs any type of balloon archways or any type of balloon support systems for anything, holidays, parties, whatever, Jen has a great future in that endeavor as well. She has given and continues to give of her time and the effort to the PTO and to the East Greenbush community, whether it be by offering assistance, a friendly smile, or a helping hand. Through her many hours of volunteering, she has become a familiar face in the building and part of the Janae family. Her leadership in the PTO, has, as mentioned, has been a driving force in the offerings and events here at our school community. Mrs. Crewell also presents a smile with whatever it is that is asked of her. She's probably the only parent that has my cell phone number, and she knows that that's the best way to get a hold of me if she ever needs anything, and she and I communicate a lot of times, sometimes after hours, to get things done for the school community. She's a tremendous asset to our school, and we are honored to have her as part of our team here at Janae. In preparation for this, which she caught me with today, which I'm really sad about. I was speaking with her oldest son, Ethan, to get some dirt, as I call it, on mom so I could share it tonight. And let me tell you, he could not be more than happy to give me the skinny on mom. Some of the things I can't even share here. But the one piece out of everything that Ethan shared with me that really spoke to me and is true of Jen and her quality and her character as a person is that he said, "You know, Mr. Grigna, my mom cares a lot." And that statement could not be any truer. Jen, it has been extremely rewarding to have partnered with you on so many activities for our school community. And on behalf of the Janae school community, I thank you for all that you have done and that you will continue to do for our great school. So thank you. And also, Ethan also told me mom's favorite candy, so I also picked up a little bit of that too for you. So there you go. Reese's peanut butter cups. So if that's the case.
Okay, I'd like to invite Mr. Jim McHugh, principal of Howard L. Goff Middle School.
Thank you. Goff Middle School proudly recognizes 2 of our parent volunteers this year. So if Amanda Sapkowski and Kimberly Turner could please come up. Both Amanda and Kim have worked hard to sponsor, organize, and help with numerous events and programs at Goff, including our activity nights, our Winterfest, our annual pancake breakfast, fundraising, book fairs. They've also been extremely supportive with the supervision of these events by securing and assigning over 20 parent volunteers at each of our evening events. They've created new events at Goff, such as the roller skating, and they've purchased fun equipment for the students to enjoy. Amanda and Kim come in during the workday, often to meet with our administrative staff, clean out storage closets, and organize our Save Around books. We are very appreciative of their dedication, and they are more than deserving of this recognition. They are the can-do kind of people. We call them up, we tell them what we need, and they always produce for us. So we are very grateful and very appreciative. And I did recognize the fact that at least one of the volunteers in the elementary school has a 5th grader. So there we go. You're in. We signed you up. Thank you very much.
Already, right?
Kim and Amanda, thank you very much.
Okay, now I'd like to invite Mr. Mike Harkin up from Columbia High School.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. Tom, if you could please join me up here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tom Walters, our recognition of the year. Tom is a parent of 2. His daughter, Emma, is a recent graduate, and Peyton will be graduating this spring from Columbia High School. I first met Tom when he assisted us with the Chromebook rollout at Columbia High School. People can remember back to then, you had to come in with your students, sign out Chromebooks, watch a video. There was a bear dancing around on the TV screen, and Tom was instrumental in helping support us to get that out. That's the first time I met Tom and realized that he was really committed to the school. Over the past 4 years, we haven't been able to see each other as much because of the pandemic, but last spring when we started sports, I think it was winter 1, I noticed him back in the gym helping out with basketball. This past year, I don't think there's been an event that goes on that he's not part of. Over the last 20 years, Tom has been part of the Red Mill classroom and field trip activities with Mrs. Dunn, Mrs. Decker, and Mrs. Hayes. At Goff, he has gone on the Washington, D.C. trip as a chaperone and helped with the pancake breakfast. In the community, he has served for Pop Warner, youth soccer, youth basketball, and Little League. I mentioned that he did the Chromebook this year. He also helped us with our Cornhole PTSO tournament. Tom is also the P12 Director of Operations for the New York State Education Department, so he gives me my updates from State Ed while he's also helping me with the PTSO tournament. And really the truest testament is he has 2 wonderful children that make Columbia High School a better place. You can't meet a nicer group of kids. Peyton, you want to stand up and see everyone can see who he is? That's his son, Peyton. Always has a smile. His daughter was the same way. They're a pleasure to have. They make Columbia High School better. So congratulations, Tom. Thank you very much.
Okay, next up is Mr. Ryan Jones. He's our Director of Athletics.
Great, thank you. Before I move on, I want to say Jen has provided her balloon arches to the athletic department, so we're very grateful for that. They're awesome if anyone's looking for them. From the athletic department, I would like to recognize Jeff Rose. So if Jeff would like to come up. So I wrote down what I want to say here, but needless to say, Jeff's been with our athletic department for a very long time, longer than I've been here. His kids have all came through our athletic department. We have one of them coaching with us now, so hopefully Jeff's not going anywhere anytime soon. So the athletic department would like to recognize Jeff Rose for the many hours, months, and years of volunteer service he has provided the athletic department in East Greenbush Central School District. Jeff has been very active in athletics throughout the community in various roles. He has volunteered with the Columbia baseball program, Columbia basketball program, and has run the East Greenbush Basketball Youth Association since 1988. Jeff has been a volunteer with the varsity baseball program for over 20 years. During this time, he has helped the program in many capacities, such as assisting with day-to-day operations, game management duties, scorebook, scouting, statistics, bench coach, and helping with maintaining the fields, batting cages, and bullpens. During his time as a volunteer with the program, the baseball team has won 6 sectional titles and the 2004 state championship. Jeff has also been a volunteer within the Columbia basketball program, most recently assisting his son, head JV coach Tyler Rose is here tonight as well. Within the program, Jeff is always willing to help out in any capacity necessary, running drills in practice, providing players with feedback, or instruction, or keeping the scorebook for any team in the program. Outside of baseball and basketball, Mr. Rose is always willing to lend a helping hand to any program within the athletic community. We are very appreciative for all that Jeff Rose has done and continue to do for us, and hopefully will continue to do for a very long time. We appreciate everything you've done for us. Thank you. Appreciate it.
How about one last round of applause for all of our volunteers? And at this time, I'll turn the program back over to Mr. Buno and Mr. Simons.
Thank you, Ellen. Just a wonderful presentation and recognition for our special volunteers, and also to thank all those volunteers who work at all our schools, and parents, and many of us here who volunteered before becoming board members and still volunteer. It's so much caring and community that we see all these folks here, and what they give back to their schools and help their children and other families. I'd like to be able to have a picture of everybody, if that's okay. If the principals and maybe the volunteers can come get together up the front. Mr. Simons has volunteered to
Yes.
take a picture. And then what we'd like to do is take a few minutes. We have some refreshments, right, Helen, to afterward. A lot of good stuff on the agenda if you want to stick around. Guess not. Bye. Okay, moving on to item 4 on our agenda is approval of draft minutes for April 4th. Any questions or comments or revisions to the minutes for that meeting? Emily, you are not here, so you can abstain. Revisions, comments, questions on the minutes? Seeing none, a motion to approve that. Kathleen, second. John or Mark? My head's on a swivel here. Going back and forth. All's in favor? Approved. All's abstaining? I'm sorry, Emily. Approved. Now we'll move on to our board forum. Start on my left with Cheryl. Anything good? Mr. Dunn? Okay. Mark?
I had a question, but
Question?
we're going to talk about capital planning.
Yes.
He wanted to
Jen?
know who made the cookies.
Just congrats to the volunteers tonight, and then also to everybody in the district. I know we were recognized as the #1 district by the TU, so great
Yeah,
recognition.
yay. Congratulations. Kathleen,
Jen.
stole your thunder. All right. Joanne.
Want to shout out to the bus drivers and the mechanics.
Of course,
Today's
yeah.
their special day,
It
and
is.
thank you for everything that they do.
And I think tomorrow's Administrative Professionals Day, right? And Emily. Good, okay. Next item on the agenda is the public forum. Residents, students, employees, and business representatives of the East Greenbush Central School District may address the board on matters concerning programs and/or operations of the district other than matters involving personnel. Members of the board do not directly respond to citizen concerns in the public forum. If appropriate, either the president or superintendent will contact the individual in the near future. Those persons wishing to address the board will be recognized by the chair of the meeting, should state for the record their name and address or affiliation with the district or business. While the board does not wish to infringe upon free speech protections, it must be stressed that the visitors forum is not deemed to be an open forum. The board president will conduct the forum for the orderly and efficient operation of board business. In addition, any remarks which be considered defamatory or stigmatizing are prohibited and will be declared out of order. All comments shall be limited to 5 minutes. Is there anyone who'd like to address the board this time? No. Okay. Next, we'll move on to the reports and presentations of the superintendent. Mr. Simons.
Yes, before I talk about the capital project planning, we do have a special recognition I want to announce for 2 of our board
I'm
members.
sorry. I forgot that.
With Mr. Buno's assistance, we received from the New York State School Boards Association today certificates of accomplishment for 2 of our board members for participating in leadership development. And those certificates are being distributed this evening to Emily Steinbach and Cheryl Kennedy for their professional development in the New York State School Boards Association.
They are suitable for framing.
appreciate that our Board of Education members participate in leadership development through the New York State School Boards Association by attending conferences, conventions, and other workshops that are available to help board members in their role as serving the community. So thank you, Cheryl, and thank you, Emily, for participating in that professional development. It's very appreciated by the district. Capital project planning. As the community and the board is aware, we are scheduled to complete our capital project, $39.7 million capital project that was approved by voters in the spring of 2017. The fire and smoke alarm system at the high school is really the last significant component of the project. That process is occurring now and scheduled to be completed this summer. Additionally, we have spoken about the playground replacement projects at both Red Mill and Janay. We are considering some new designs and ideas that were submitted from a local East Greenbush playground contractor whose services, including installation, are available through the New York State contract. That company is meeting with respective teams from Red Mill and Janay to talk about what they can offer. I previously reported that the project, as it was being designed by another vendor, exceeded the cost available within the remaining referendum from 2017. So far, it seems as though this particular company has some comparable design, good customer service, and good pricing. So we'll keep you informed regarding that. Additionally, soon after the budget vote, we expect to pick up the conversation that we began really back in December regarding the future capital project. We reported to the board previously that we completed the building condition survey, and that was submitted by the deadline in March. We are going to have capital markets, which is the district's fiscal planning consultant, come to the board and to a budget review and advisory committee to talk about what the overall cost of the next project could be without incurring additional impact on the tax levy. So that is kind of our next step to look at that soon after the budget. We kind of wanted to separate that conversation out for a while as we dealt with the general fund budget. And then we'll pick that up after the May vote. I know Mr. Mann had a question.
Yes. So somebody had asked me why summer school was at Goff and not Columbia. And I said, because of the work that was being done over the summer and I'm assuming it's because of the smoke detectors and fire alarms. So is there going to people in the building during the summertime? I mean, obviously no smoke detectors, no fire alarms. Is the school going to be totally shut down?
No, not necessarily. Currently, we plan to bring this proposal to the board, and I don't have the details this evening. There is a review occurring between St. Reuben, some of our personnel, and Paul Bickle regarding phasing of the fire and smoke alarm system that's occurring right now. There are different sections of it, so to speak. Some of that work is being completed now. Under New York State regulations, a school building can operate with fire watchers, fire and smoke watchers, absent a smoke and fire alarm system. But I've asked for more detail on how that might work towards the end of the spring and the summer, and we plan to bring a plan back to the board for discussion. But basically, the school could operate in the summer with fire watchers, but I want to see those protocols and what that timing would be before I would say that I
So
felt confident that was safe.
You said that falls under state ed rules?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I'd be interested in hearing more about that.
Right.
So you said the project started now for the
Yes.
smoke alarms?
Yes.
Did they start like the athletic wing or they?
I can bring that information back to the
Yeah, I'm
next
just
meeting. I
curious
don't,
to
I don't
see
know
what-
exactly. Mr. Bickle would be able to give you a
Yeah,
better picture
yeah,
of that.
if you
But they
wouldn't
have
mind.
started in different sections. There's separate systems.
Okay.
But in terms of the logistics of it, we'd have to bring that back. Linda, I don't know if you know anything more than what I do about it.
No, that's fine. I'm not looking for an answer now. That's okay. No,
Yeah, we're
really.
working on it on
Yeah.
an ongoing basis. In fact, Linda met today with St. Reuben and Paul, Jeff Tooker, and some others to talk about scheduling and phasing of the project.
Okay.
What would be offline when and when the new system would be converted in. So we can bring that back.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions? Okay. So more to come.
Yep.
Okay. Very good. We have 2 items for discussion. We have the pre-K lottery update. Start with that. Turn it
Yes,
over to,
we had a lot, I'm going to kick it over to Linda in
Linda?
just a minute.
Okay.
But we had a lottery for our pre-K families who were interested in having their children attend pre-K. We held that on April 17th in the evening at Janae Auditorium. That lottery was coordinated by Mrs. Wager, our Director of Business and Finance, Jean Pagburn, our Board Clerk, and also overseen by Michael Wolf, the district's internal auditor. And we had 61 students selected for the pre-K program. 54 of those students would be at the 3 sites, Janae, Red Mill, and DPS, and 7 of those students would be at the Early Childhood Education Center in North Greenbush. We're following up now with families, and Linda can give us an update on what we're doing to make sure that those families get registered for the program.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Simons. As Mr. Simons said, it was a very popular program. We received applications from February 27th through March 31st. We received 152 applications. So we ranked all of those 152 applications in order. We have contacted the first 61 families. Registration packets have been sent out to them. And approximately 50 of the 61 families got their first or second choice of location, and about 10 got their third or fourth choice. But everybody is very happy to be hearing from us that they were selected. The registration packets are due back on May 5th.
great. Thank you. Any questions for Linda?
Is this year the highest year we've had so far with people wanting pre-K?
Yes, we started it 2 years ago. Last year for this current year, we got 129 applications, and it was slightly less than that the year before, the first year.
I have seen and heard, of a lot of folks that didn't get in and very disappointed and, now struggling to find another option for their child. So hopefully, we'll look at the budget when it comes and we can look at, eventually, hopefully expanding the program. I feel like we can see that the families want it and need it.
Yeah, I think we continue to look for classroom space for additional pre-K. We're hope that maybe there's some news coming about the funding mechanism and how that works. If anybody's got any inside scoop on that, we'd love to hear it. I think, those shifts would be very helpful to a district like this to help sustain the program and keep it affordable for our district. Any other questions on pre-K? And next is the special grants for 2023 and 2024. Who's going to take that?
That's going to be Ms. Cannon.
Okay, Marissa.
Thank you, Mr. Beaner and Mr. Simons. The special grants is, a very unique time each year where the intent of a special grant is to provide a personal educational experience that will enrich and enhance our classroom teacher's expertise in his or her subject area. It's an excellent opportunity for an EGTA member to go to a statewide conference or a national-wide conference and then bring back what they've learned to the district. So our special grants committee is comprised of 3 EGTA members, one at the elementary level, middle school level, and high school level. We also have a building principal on our committee, which is Mrs. Helen Scalacci, and a board member, Mrs. Curran, and myself. And what we do is we sit down and really look at who's been awarded a special grant in the past. We look at the departments applying for a special grant, the subject areas. This year, our application process started at the end of February, and it was a 4-week process where our EGTA members were able to look into specific conferences that they wanted to go to. They start off by submitting a proposal to their building principal or their department supervisor. That proposal is then signed off by an administrator and sent to my office for final review with the committee. This year, we had over 20 applications, totaling $90,774. So we have $40,000 to work with. That's the parameter set by our contract. So we had met on April 3rd as a committee. And we reviewed each of those applications. And it was a hard task, but we feel that we have been able to go through all the applications and make a determination on who we would like to recommend a special grant. So at this time, the list of recommended special grants is on as a discussion item, and we would like to move that forward for approval at our next meeting in May.
Thank you, Marissa. Any questions on the special grants process?
I just have a request. In this, would you spell out the acronyms? Not familiar with a lot of these, and so I don't know what some of these are.
Yes, I can definitely get you a list of those, and I can do that for next year as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Emily, don't feel bad. I had to ask Marissa as well before I sent it out.
Google,
Before I
but-
sent it out to the board.
Any other questions? Okay, so we'll move this to the next meeting for approval?
Yes.
Very good. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for all who worked, and I think Kathleen, right, you were on the committee? Yep. Thank you for your involvement in that. I bet. It's encouraging to see the number of people who are very interested in professional development and learning and bringing that learning back to the district and to their colleagues. So thank you for all the work that you've done and to take the initiative and support, this program, and to also to submit applications. And if you didn't get this year, try again next year, and hopefully we can support you again. All right. Moving on to regular business, and we're right on schedule. It says 8 o'clock at 7:57. So next item is the approval of programs for resident children with disabilities. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I need a motion to approve that. John, second. Joanne, all those in favor? Approved. All right, this is the big one, adoption of the proposed budget for 23-24. Are there any questions or comments? Mr. Simon, would you like to say anything first?
Just a quick summary as I provided the last time. As everyone knows, we are about 2.5 weeks past the normal deadline for the New York State budget. We've been advised that progress is being made. Assemblyman McDonald, that represents a large portion of the East Greenbush School District, anticipated and communicated with us that we should anticipate about the same level of aid that was projected in the governor's executive budget proposal. There are still some unknowns that could impact the discretion that we have within the budget. The high impact tutoring set aside is something that we've talked about before. We're hoping that that does not end up in the final budget because we have tutoring in place. We have resources within the program to fund that tutoring. The other factor that we've already talked about this evening is, will the state budget include an increase in the aid available for tuition reimbursement for pre-K, which stands currently at $5,400 per student, which has been the amount for some time. And while our costs for that program far exceed that. So the budget gives us some discretion to work on those issues at $108.8 million proposed budget, to be exact, $108,812,882. The budget as proposed includes a 0.5% tax levy, which yields approximately $291,872 to the district. The impact of the tax levy on many taxpayers will be no change in their tax bills because it's a small increase to the levy, and the tax base within East Greenbush School District is growing. So we had presented that in the past using a $250,000 median average cost home. So while the amount of money that we're collecting will go up, it does not mean that that 0.5% will be translated into everybody's tax bills. We left some room within the budget to address class sizes should enrollment shift. We've heard about class sizes. I do want to report to the board and the community that based on the enrollment as it stands today, we did decide to add a additional classroom section at Belltop in the 2nd grade. So we've adjusted the 1st grade and the 2nd grade at Belltop. We're watching the 3rd grade, and we're watching the numbers across all of the schools. We expect at this point to plan to add 3 total additional sections of classroom teachers K-5 next year as compared to this year. It would be the additional 2nd grade at Belltop and 2 classrooms at Janae. I believe it's 1 in kindergarten and 1 in 4th. Is that correct, Mr. Grignon? Depending on, as of right now, and we're watching the numbers carefully, but the budget includes money should we need to go further
Very
in
good.
terms of additional staff. Additionally, we've talked about the importance of school safety. I'll be giving a report of the safety committee a little bit later. We left some room in the budget as we continue to discuss where we can enhance our school safety program. I want to have further discussions with the board about that.
Okay.
Wait and see what happens with state aid
Sure.
to really know what we're working with. And then mental health. If we could do it, we'd like to look a little bit deeper at the mental health needs of students and the services that we're providing, particularly as kids are transitioning through the middle school. And I want to have further conversations about that. But the $108.8 million budget includes the additions that we've spoken about in the past and a little bit of room and discretion to address those three issues.
Thank you, Mr. Simon. Questions, board members? We've had a lot of conversations over the last few months, several weeks, and I think that the budget as it stands right now is a very solid budget, gives us those flexibility, like Mr. Simon said. So with that, I need a motion to approve and adopt the budget. Kathleen, need a second. John, all those in favor? Approved. Very good. Thank you.
Just want to add that we have scheduled some sessions with the community to present the budget. We'll have our budget hearing. If any of our students are interested in attending the budget hearing, it will be May 3rd at Columbia High School.
Extra credit.
An exciting meeting. We'll see you then. But that budget hearing is required by New York State law. It will be May 3rd and it will be at the high school. So it's
Very
really
good.
our next regular meeting.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
No 18-year-olds? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Simons. So we have two items. The reason that the meeting is on Tuesday is by virtue of law, the local BOCES budget, which Mark is a member of the Cluster R3 board, needs to be adopted. So any comments or questions on that, Mr. Simons, regarding that? And Mr. Mann, if you want to say anything.
I would just say on this, I think the Questar BOCES board and the administration did a really good job at keeping the increases very low in the administrative budget. I appreciate that Mark serves on that board.
Thank you, Mark. Any comments or Mark?
Just that, what the BOCES provides to the Columbia Green, Rensselaer County is phenomenal, especially our school district.
Yep.
And we were very fortunate enough to attend the annual meeting, and we had some of our Columbia High School student who was one of the chefs that prepared the food, and it was phenomenal. And he was excited, and got our picture taken with him, and so just the amazing things they do. So definitely a good budget.
Great. Thank you, Mark.
We also heard from the young man who does
Yes.
HVAC.
Oh,
HVAC.
right, HVAC too.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
It was nice to see our kids.
There was.
I think he was going to Skills USA competition too. So excellent.
Just a further comment.
Yes, John.
For those that don't realize, back a few years before they came on the board, we didn't have the relationship that we have now with Questar, and this board, along with Jeff, decided to really be a active participant. And I want to thank Mark Mann for stepping up and becoming on that board so that East Greenbush and the taxpayers in the district have a voice. And Jeff, for your leadership in Questar, not only representing the district, but also representing Questar from the superintendent perspective. It has really made a difference for our students. So I just wanted everyone to realize that you two guys are having a huge impact on the district, and it is appreciated.
Thank you.
That's a great comment, John, because I know as the largest, maybe Troy is right there neck and neck, but this district should have representation and have a say in what's going on in the BOCES because of the size of it and the number of students it sends to many of its programs. So with that, we need a vote to adopt the administrative tentative budget for 2024. Mr. Mann, I need a second. Joanne, all those in favor? Approved. Thank you very much. We also have a election of board members. Board members run, it looks like there's 4 3-year terms, according to the memo from local school districts. Rensselaer County, looks like represented Greene County and Columbia County. Any questions on that? Mark's been working with those folks for a while, so I think they're all incumbents, right? Yep. Okay,
They are.
very good. Need a motion to approve that. John, second. Mark, all those in favor? Approved. Moving on to the next item, Capital District Regional Planning Commission Agreement. This is the group that does our studies on helps with the enrollment and projections and things like that. Many of you are familiar with that organization that does that work for us. It's very valuable. Any questions or comments on the agreement? No, so we'll engage them for another year. Okay, need a motion to approve that. Joanne, second. Kathleen, all those in favor? Approved. We have a change order, phase 3. Mr. Simons or Linda, could you give us a brief update?
Yes, currently the curtain, which separates the gym into separate instructional spaces, is being replaced. And as part of that replacement, we realized that the mechanism to pull the curtain in and out and move it efficiently to make it electrical was lacking. So the change order reflects the electrical costs and the components necessary there's 3 of them because there's 3 sections of the curtain. So it's a change order, but it is also within the $39.7 million cost of the project, and it is eligible for building aid reimbursement at approximately 72%.
So these come to the board because the financial threshold that requires approval, right?
Right.
Very good.
$35,000.
Yeah, and together they
You know.
total 36,000. So
Okay, couldn't do it on your own, so too bad. Okay, need a motion to approve that. Mark, second. Cheryl, all those in favor? Approved. And we have a resolution to approve the EGT MOA related to school psychology, correct?
This is an MOA as a result of having a mid-year resignation for a school psychologist.
Okay.
This is going to provide 3 school psychologists up to 4 hours per week at their regular rate of pay. That additional time to catch up on some of those annual evaluations that we need to complete by June 30th.
Very good. Necessary work for our students. Thank you. All right, any questions or comments? All right, need a motion to approve that. Emily, second. Kathleen, all those in favor? Approved. And the last item is a tax litigation settlement proposal. Always one of my favorite things to talk about because it seems like these companies are always looking for something. But this is the property located on Route 4. I think, Mr. Simons, we talked about around the TD Bank North, the TD Bank
Yeah, it's
area.
behind the TD Bank
The
to
older building that's vacant.
to the north. It's an office building that recently sold for much less than its current assessment. It was assessed at $2,089,000. It sold for $787,000. So this petition brings the overall assessment down to the market that it's sold
Market
at.
value, okay.
And it involves a refund of $28,837. And Linda, I believe that will come from our reserve.
that will come out of our tax cert reserve. And the reason that I brought this to the board's attention is because going forward, the new assessment for the next 3 years will be $970,000.
Okay. Okay, about half what it is now. All right. Any questions or comments? All right, need a motion to approve that. John, second. Anyone? John, Mark? Okay, all those in favor? Trying to get everybody in here. All right. Okay, that concludes our regular business. We'll move on to committee reports. Marissa? Nothing? Linda?
None at this time.
Okay. Roy? No. Good. All right. Jeff?
Yes, briefly. As we discussed at the last board meeting at Belltop, our safety committee was meeting to discuss an after-action review and evaluation of the lockdown that occurred on March 30th, I believe it was. Prior to the Health and Safety Committee meeting, we met with a full administrative team of the district, and then we met separately with some of the principals and representatives from the Transportation Department to have a full discussion of some of the issues that occurred. One of the things I want to say for the public's benefit, sometimes when we conduct these reviews regarding our safety plans and our procedures, we don't share those procedures. because we never know if those procedures and that detailed information would get out to somebody who could potentially want to commit a harm towards our school. So I'm going to speak very generically, but I will continue to provide the board and the safety committee with updates of the things that we may adjust. Overall, the feeling of the safety committee was that the district did the right thing in terms of enacting a district-wide lockdown. We had law enforcement at that meeting. We did that because a specific threat phone call came in from a live person to the East Greenbush Police Department dispatcher. And it took some time before we knew whether that was a real event or what is now being characterized as a swatting event. And the fact that we had received that specific threat and Skodak, our neighboring district, was in a similar situation, the police chief and I agreed that we would lock down the district. One of the things that made this particular lockdown different than other drills and other scenarios was it occurred right at the time when students were arriving onto the elementary schools, either through buses and parent drop-off. So with input from the transportation department and the principals and law enforcement, we evaluated the procedures that we used that day, which was to keep all of the kids on the buses until such time as law enforcement could come and safely clear the building and oversee the kids being disembarked from the bus. We heard concerns about whether or not the students on the bus and the bus drivers were safe under that scenario. And one thing that we did say is that in a very short period of time, we knew that it was an extra precaution that we were taking to make sure that the police were there before we sweep the building and before we let people off the buses. However, we are in the process of identifying and working with the transportation department for staging locations whereby the buses could go in the event that a similar situation occurs. Those staging locations have been identified and shared with the building principals. And in most cases, the building principals and the transport department are agreeing upon those locations. Every building has a separate and a different staging location. We're not going to share where those are because in the event of an emergency, we don't want people to know where we're taking the kids and the staff, but we have staging locations that we can use. And the procedure that we agreed to was that in the event that something like this occurred again, the bus drivers would wait for direction from the transportation dispatcher, which would come from me to this dispatcher. My directions typically are based on what law enforcement tells me is necessary. They would go to the staging locations and they would wait for further direction, further instructions, whether those instructions mean that one building has been cleared from a lockdown and that is a safe location for all the buses to go where there's staff and nurses available to assist, or it could be that those buses would go to a central location to be identified, such as the transportation center or some other central location, depending on the situation and the locations of the emergencies and to what degree the police have determined that those particular locations are safe. So that was a healthy discussion in terms of the next time if something like this happens. Transportation, the administration have now agreed on what those procedures would be. We also discussed provisions that we could make in the event that students had a need for necessary medications and how that procedure might work. We brainstormed some ideas. Our nurses, however, are meeting with our director of PPS and assistant director of PPS and our SROs and some of our principals to discuss this within the next couple of weeks. We haven't made a final determination on that. In most cases, students who take medication in school, it's not life-threatening, but we do have some situations where we want to prioritize those kids, make sure the information regarding who those students are is available to our staff on the bus. We're also investigating, this came up as a suggestion from the bus driver and from a parent, could we look into having AEDs on the buses? And we're looking into that. I did report at a previous meeting that all of our bus drivers have recently been trained in CPR and AED. So we're looking into whether or not we are legally permitted to have AEDs on the buses. We know that there's some indication that they are eligible for transportation aid, but we're researching with help of Questar BOCES whether they're permissible under the regulations. We evaluated both our internal communication and our communication with our community. The assessment that we've received from the large majority of the community, that our communication was very good in terms of the work that we did with Mark Adam to put information out when it was available to our families. We were told by one of the members of our committee who works as a consultant to SED that the SED has been monitoring our communication of this incident and wants to use it as a model for the state, which was very nice to hear. Internally, many of our principals received praise for their communication within their respective buildings. Some used Parent Square, some used other methodologies to make sure that faculty and staff knew what was happening. Additionally, the committee received feedback regarding the automated systems that we have, for example, in most of our buildings, with the exception of the high school and the transportation department. The Informacast speakers worked very well and were very clear to everybody in terms of what was happening. We also have the ability for a public address announcement to come in through the phone. And in some cases in the high school, staff didn't have their phone volume turned up. So we've asked them to make sure that they have that volume turned up because they couldn't hear everything that was being said. There are some speakers being evaluated at the high school. You may remember a few years ago, some of them were not functioning very well. We're evaluating those speakers that need to be addressed. The other thing that we're looking at in terms of, we purchased strobes for the front and different areas of each building. If the strobe light is blinking, people are not to go into the building or go near the building. And in some cases, the principal's assessment and law enforcement's assessment is those strobes weren't as noticeable to some people coming onto the campus as they should be. So we're looking into the purchase of additional strobes as well as the locations of those strobes and possibly putting some of those strobes away from the building, such as in the entranceways of the building. For example, down the hill at DPS. That would involve electrical work, that would involve fiber work, and it may be something that we look at in the next capital project. Overall, the staff felt that our staff knew what to do. Principals felt that the staff, faculty and staff in each of their buildings knew what to do. And overall, we feel that we did a very good job, but there were always gaps. And the issues that we really focused on was how can we communicate even better than what we did? How can we make sure that all of our equipment is functioning correctly in terms of the speakers, the additional strobes, and some of the procedures. Additionally, we are talking with law enforcement about how to enhance their current access to the buildings and their ability to be able to go through the buildings and release the lockdown quicker than they were able to do, which was pretty quick at the last incident. And we're sharing information with the police department about how to make that process work a little better. But overall, I think we've done a good job with the review. I appreciated the input from the bus drivers, from the principals and administrators, as well as our safety supervisors, and of course our law enforcement that works very closely with the district. The police departments are meeting with each of the agencies that were involved. They're doing their own reviews, and they will be providing me with more information that I'll share with the board at a future time.
Oh, excellent. Good. Questions or comments regarding the committee meeting? Very thorough. Thank you. Very helpful. One question on the transportation, students with special needs. Was there concerns there or any special accommodations needed?
Yeah, we talked about that. In many cases, the students who are on special needs have aides. In many cases, those aides are knowledgeable about what those needs are. But we did talk about that particular issue, and again, that'll be another subject for the nurses to work with our PPS department on.
Excellent, thank you. Anybody else? Good. Thank you, Jeff. Did you have another report on the?
Yes, our committee on global education. We had a meeting and we discussed the success of the One District, One Book, One Community initiative. We also talked about some focus areas for our further work regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion. We want to find a way to broaden the number of people that are on our committee, and including the representation on our district-wide committee. So we're talking about ways to do that. We also want to see what we can do as a committee to connect issues around diversity, equity, inclusion to the work that Mr. Stiles' committee is doing regarding social emotional learning. we're seeing some challenges in terms of some students and the way that they relate to other students and resolve conflict, particularly at the middle school level. We're working through the code of conduct to address those issues, but we also want to have an educational and a restorative component. We do have incidents in which kids are using inappropriate expressions towards other kids, which are harmful, that we want to address. And we're looking for programs, including one that is currently happening in our neighboring BOCES, that provide kids with a facilitated approach to voicing in and being part of the solution. And we're looking into how, I've talked to Questar about bringing that program here. Terry Bordell has been very interested in doing that. And we're going to be talking with the committee about getting kids more involved in structured discussions about the learning atmosphere and the climate of the school, and looking to them as a resource for solutions, and also giving them an opportunity to talk about their perceptions of the school environment as we continue to grow and learn about social emotional learning, and we try to promote an inclusive and accepting environment for everyone within our school. There was a real strong feeling among community members that student voices were needed in the process, as well as a better representation within our committee.
Very good. The middle school, are you seeing it in a certain grade level? Is it sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth
I think
grade?
it trends more in this towards the 7th and the 8th grade.
Okay. So one of the things, maybe a suggestion would be to talk about fifth grade as the kind of the culture clash, so to speak, comes in from the various elementary schools, making sure that we kind of push down into the elementary schools as they progress. And it's a big shift for a lot of kids, as they come in.
There's a lot of planning going on by the middle school. As I mentioned before, there's another visit coming up that they're doing to another district. The board is supportive of the budget that will expand staffing enough to have full teaming in the 6th grade, which helps with student relationships. There's the safety supervisors that are there now helping with the overall climate within the school. The budget includes the assistant principal position. And the focus of the AP will also be what you just identified, Mr. Buno, is helping those 5th graders transition into the 6th grade and being a little bit more proactive about instilling in those kids the support that they need to be able to interact positively and successfully at the middle school level.
Maybe too, if we have where we welcome our parents and our students in at 6th grade, we have kind of welcoming things like that, maybe some activities around that at the middle school level, whether it's 6th grade or 7th grade. But I think, having that messaging up front as they enter and talking to the parents and making sure we have these kinds of conversations about what's appropriate. And
I think
helping them.
generally when we talk with the parents, when we have these issues occur, they've been very generally supportive and upset with their own children for the behavior and the interactions that have occurred. But one of the things we talked about as a committee, we want to maintain East Greenbush School District is the positive, welcoming climate that it is, but there's issues that we do need to deal with.
Yep.
And we're hoping to do that in a way that is positive, productive, educational, and restorative for our kids.
Absolutely. Discipline and
Just a question, Jeff. Is there anything out there, because a lot of what's going on with these kids is coming from the home. And one of the things I think that's been a challenge, at least in my board service, is engaging families as a family, as compared to, we can spend a lot of money on children and we, can program after program after program. But if their families aren't participating in what we're doing here, it's just a constant struggle. And my fear as for the future of education is the school keeps becoming a greater and greater parent to children, that we're not engaging in the parents. I think it needs to be a creative path to get people to vest into their children's education here, and at the middle school especially. So if there's anything out there, I've been looking it up, and it seems to be the missing mark in and where we're going.
There's an interesting book that I used as a resource many years ago, not here, called Beyond the Bake Sale. You ought to look at that book. It is a book that talks about different tiers of family engagement in the schools and how do you really create the type of climate within your school where all families from all backgrounds engage not only in events that are within the school, but they're part of the decision-making process. It's a really interesting book. It's something that the state used to use as a resource for districts that were identified as needing to do more work for families that were economically disadvantaged or students who come from various ethnic or racial backgrounds. So it's Beyond the Bake Sale. It's something that is a resource to take a look at. But and there are other professional development and other programs that focus on how do you engage families that may feel that or have a perception that that they're not part of that or they're not part of the school, and we want them to feel like they're part of the school. So it's more of an outreach approach and also a listening approach to find out what we aren't doing that may change things for them and help them engage.
Thank you.
I think this is a really important discussion, and I appreciate bringing this to the board and those efforts. I echo John that, this is like a collaboration, multifaceted approach, right? A solution to, engaging and there's no denying, right, that there's people say there's a mental health crisis in the youth today, and you see it 13 to 17, right? Even the state, is acknowledging it and going to be addressing it. But I do think that, right, it's the youth, but it's also the supports we offer families and those youth and the school, the teachers, and what we offer. So I think, I'm glad that we're going and talking to other districts and seeing what other, folks are doing. I think this is something that we're going to have to probably have a multi-prong approach and look at it from all different angles. There's probably not one right solution. And it's not one right answer for every single family, right? It's going to be different approaches and different levels of engagement. But I do feel that, especially surrounding DEIA issues, that, this is not something that we can address. We have to, and we want to feel not only that welcome, but we want people to feel supported and they belong. And I think that will go a long way, right, in many years, and they carry throughout their entire lives, whether they feel like they belong in this community. And I think that work is very hard, and it takes a lot of, acknowledgement and insight, and the district really has to say, we don't do well in this, and we need to, do better, and how do we do better? And it starts with acknowledging, right, that we need to do better, and we can. So I appreciate this discussion and these efforts.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other comments?
Next year's budget's already being planned.
Well, I was thinking the same thing about with that, our strategic planning and as we move forward and ideas and our goals, these are things that we have to make sure we keep on the forefront. And I know the board has already recognized that our middle school is an area of focus, especially in conjunction with, like Emily said and John said. All right. Moving on from the committee reports, we have table motions. I have none. Old business, board members, anything? No. Okay. Consent agenda, items A through, I'll say I. Questions, comments on those topics, those items? Seeing none, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Cheryl, I need a second. Mark, all those in favor? Approved. Thank you. We did have an addendum for a sub bus driver, correct, Marissa? Need a motion to approve that. I should have included it earlier, but Kathleen, I need a second. Cheryl, all those in favor? Approved. New business, board members, anything? No? Okay. We have our second public forum. I see most of the administrators here. Thank you for your presence. And I also want to recognize, Wayne, it's your last board meeting, right? You said? Yeah, so thank you for all your work. Thank you. So we'll move right to the board forum. Emily, we'll start with you. Anything? Okay. Joanne? Kathleen?
I do have one quick thing as we prepare for our budget presentation next week. The school board's newsletter that went out
Mhm.
made a point of saying that voter participation in budgets votes is very low. Our area, it's 10.5%. So anything we can
Amazing.
do to encourage people to, get the numbers up a little bit. Because I mean, this is one of the very few places where you get a voice in how your money actually
Oh, good
gets
point.
spent.
That's true.
You don't get that direct vote anyplace else. So I was going to say, unfortunately, Dan already left, though he did inform us that his students are too young, but if he can get the word, help get the word out.
Parent Square, great tool.
So,
Thank you, Kathleen.
like I said, we are one of the lower, the overall state average is 10.7 and we're actually below that.
Okay.
So
So we're doing something right with the budget, right?
that's what they said. Is it good or bad? And
Is it
there's a
good or
whole article. So,
That just brings up a point, the different plan for golf squared away in terms of the voting location is going to be cafeteria, right?
Yes, the gym will become the cafeteria that day, for that day only, and the cafeteria will be the space for voting.
So
And
it's
the
just
interior
separate.
exits will be closed, and
Excellent.
people will enter through the cafeteria and vote and enter out the same doors that they come in. So it'll be isolated from the general population of the school.
Excellent.
And I want to thank Mr. McHugh for organizing his team to do that for us.
Great. Great. Jennifer? Mark? John? Cheryl's good. Just want to say thank you for Marty, for the team,
Yes,
for
thank you.
our gift. Appreciate it. Thank you, administrators, for recognizing the volunteers. Very, very nice. Always a pleasure to be here at Red Mill and every school that we visit. Always good to get out and see folks. And with that, we do have need for executive session for purposes of potential litigation and personnel matters.
Yes.
Okay, very good. We don't anticipate any business afterwards?
We don't anticipate
Okay.
any.
All right, so have a great night. I need a motion to go into executive session. John, I need a second. Kathleen, all those in favor? All right, have a great night, everybody.